Yo guys, welcome to the sixth episode of this tutorial on our ongoing series HTML course for beginners in 2024. And today we'll be talking about HTML styles. Yeah, and this is actually the most interesting of them all. And we might stay a little bit longer than our previous videos because of some of the concepts I want to actually introduce. Although some of these things are not within the scope of the HTML course, but well, I just want to just broaden your minds a bit. So when we get into CSS, we'll, be able to understand these things properly. You get? All right. So I'm just going to create a new file. And this time you can discover I opened my Visual Studio Code before starting the tutorial. So I'll just say 06 and what am I doing? So I'll just say 06 and say HTML. Oh my god. HTML, what was that? HTML styles, right? Dot HTML, the extension, right? Okay, and now we have a blank page like this. I'm just going to close the other tabs. So I'll just say close others and we'll be left with this. And when we have a blank page, like in previous video, what do? We hold down Shift 1 to toggle the emmet abbreviation so we can have a template guide so we can work with. All right, I'm just going to say learning HTML styles. Okay, all right, and I'm just going to right click to review this in File Explorer, and let's open this and see whether our page is working properly. So I'm just going to close this, and you can see we have this here, learning HTML styles, right? Okay, so what are HTML styles? HTML styles are used to style HTML elements. It also means changing the default values. And when we're talking about changing the default values, styling can come in different form. It can come in the form of, let's say, changing the color of a text, changing the color of background, something like that, just to make it look more beautiful and appealing to the eyes, right? And there are different types of styling in HTML. And we have the internal style sheet, that's internal styling, right? And we also have the inline. We have the inline styling. And I'm just going to quickly run through those two we have. And there's also external also, but like I said, some things are beyond the scope of this lecture or this series, and we'll cover them in more advanced tutorials. So internal style sheet are also called internal styling, and this is done by enclosing the style into the head element. And this is what we'll do. First of all, let's get a couple of HTML elements, and I'm just going to, we've not started going into HTML elements like in depth, but I'm just going to use the H1 like I've always used, and call it heading 1, right? And I'm just going to get another one and say, okay, paragraph 2, and say paragraph. This is just a paragraph. Say paragraph, and hope I can spell paragraph right. Okay, and I'm just going to write a comment. Remember comment from the last video, right? So I'm just going to say, okay, few HTML elements, so we can integrate all these concepts we've been studying in the past series. Okay guys, so how do we carry out internal styling? Now this is how you do. Remember I said it's always in between the head element, right? And these are content in between the head element because we have the head opening tag and the head closing tag, right? And so whatever we're going to be writing, whatever CSS rule we are going to be setting is going to be inside the head element, right? Now I'm not going to confuse you because this is kind of another section, which is the CSS section, but I just want to be introducing these concepts little by little, right? And just for your information, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So we'll talk about that fully and in-depthly in the next series, that's CSS for beginners. But for now, I'll just give more like an overview. So I'm just going to write style, and you can notice it has the opening tag and a closing tag, right? Just like before. And if you watch the HTML elements, I believe that's episode 3. I'm just going to put the link. You will discover that we covered a little bit of styling there, right? So first of all, I'm just going to save this and run this in our browser. So when I refresh, you'll discover we have heading 1 and this is just a paragraph, right? Now let's see what's going to happen. So remember I said, styling, change the default value of HTML elements, right? There are CSS set rules that we can use to alter the default value of HTML element. For example, now this value now is black. The value of this is black, or the default color of this element is dark. We don't want that. Let's say we want to change this to red, or let's say we want to change the background to gold or something, we can do that, isn't it? Now this is what we can do. We can say, okay, first of all, by setting our internal styling, we can now say, okay, let's target all the H1. Now I'm just going to type H1 and open my curly brace like this, and I'll just set a color to let's say gold, and I'll just close with a semicolon, right? And I'm just going to save, Control S, and let's see what's going to happen. So when I refresh this, what happened? You can see this gold color has, been implemented. We've changed the default value, right? And that's the use of CSS, obviously. Okay, guys, and now let's see, same thing with the paragraph. Let's say we can target the paragraph and say, okay, this, now let's change the color to, let's say, red, something significantly obvious. And I'm just going to save, and let's refresh, and let's see what's going to happen. Wow, you can see the color has just been changed. So this is how HTML styling works, and it's very important that you know these basic concepts because it's going to really help you. Okay, guys, we can also do some crazy stuff with this thing. For example, we can target the body, right? The entire body of this HTML file, right? And the previous video, it's divided into the head and the body, right? And the body is where we write our contents for our stuffs. Let's say in the style, I want to target the body, and let's give it a background of let's say a background color of let's say black. Let's see what's going to happen, and I'm going to save this, right? And refresh, and wow, you can see. I hope we understand what's going on, right? So this is done by using some set rules of CSS and embedding it in our HTML code. Finally, let's talk about the inline styling. When declaring, CSS set rules or CSS rules, we have what's called a property, right? This is the property. For example, what are we trying to achieve? Is it what feature are we trying to get? Is it the color? Is it the font size? Is it the font family? This is called the property, and this is definitely called the value you get. All right, now, so guys, I'm just going to comment this out. And how do we comment? Remember our last video, right? Control plus slash forward slash, obviously, or backward slash. I don't know. I'll put the correct one. All right, guys. So I'm just going to Control R, and you can see when I refresh this page, definitely everything is gone. Because why? I've commented it out. It's showing in our editor, but it's not showing in the what? In the browser, and that's what I want. Okay, guys, now I want to talk about the inline styling, which is very similar to what the internal styling, which is very similar to this, what we have here. You can see, but this is quite different. Because why? Inline styling allows us to set CSS rules inside the HTML element directly, just inside the HTML tag, and it is done at the start tag. Remember, I have talked about HTML tags, right? This is the HTML start tag, the H1, and this is the HTML end tag, right? And together, this is called what? The HTML elements. All right, guys. So just let's say I want to declare a style. I want to set a CSS style for this header one, and then let's say I want to change the font size to something very big. I can say, okay, now I'll just come here and say, you know what? Let's talk about the color, something we've done before, so there will be a similarity. All right, guys. So I'm just going to come here just inside the H1 tag, the start tag, and I'm just going to hit a space. That's my space bar, and type style. And discover that I'm not yet done typing and it's popped out. I'm just going to click on it, and you can see this is going to, remember we talked about attribute, right? And this is how we declare attribute: the name of the attribute, the content, and the equal sign. So I'm just going to now set some CSS style rules. Color, I'll just set the color, which is the property, right? Don't forget, with my column, and I'm just going to give it the value of red, and let's see what's going to happen. And Control S and refresh. When I refresh, you can see this works perfectly well, just like what? Just like the internal styling you get. And you can see that the same thing, you can decide to use whichever you want. And in future series, we'll be talking about external style sheet. That's when we definitely get into CSS proper. But this is just a must know knowledge for every beginner. That explains the reason why I'm teaching this now. All right, same thing. I can decide to say, okay, set same thing here. I'm just going to give a style of let's say font size. Let's give something big and say font size of let's say 40 pixels, and let's see what's going to happen. Control X. Remember, this is your what, this is your property, and this is your value. And come over here and refresh, and you can see this is a what, 40 pixel paragraph. So guys, thank you all for watching, and thank you for following. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right guys, bye, and I love you all.